Okay.
So we know exactly what they want. We know
Yes.
exactly what they expect. And all of the parties work together from the beginning to
Yes.
design what that solution was going to be. So
Yes.
now there can't be gray about what's
Yes.
expected.
Welcome to an episode of Strategic Conversations. We host insightful discussions with top business leaders. Today, we are hosting Mr. Brandon Spencer, the president of the Energy Industries Division for ABB. Mr. Spencer will be a speaker at the Houston Strategy Forum's upcoming Project Strategy Symposium. We are excited to host him. I am Ravi Kathuria, the president of the Houston Strategy Forum and author of the management and leadership book, How Cohesive is Your Company, and author of the book, Happy Soul, Hungry Mind. Strategic Conversations is hosted by the Houston Strategy Forum. If you value these conversations, then please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the Houston Strategy Forum's YouTube channel. Today's episode is sponsored by Cohegic, my management consulting and executive coaching firm. Thank you for joining us, and we are looking forward to a great, insightful discussion with Mr. Spencer. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate the time, and we, of course, appreciate you, sir, for participating at the Project Strategy Summit coming up next week on March 1st. So thank you for both of those.
Yeah, Ravi, thank you for the opportunity to be present, to be alongside of some great panelists from the industry, and certainly to represent ABB. So really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Would you give us a quick overview of ABB and specifically what your division does?
Sure. I mean, ABB has lots of different divisions, 21 different divisions that cut across utility, industry, infrastructure, and all sorts of industrial applications. And so what my division specifically does is we're focused on automating, electrifying, and digitalizing industry. Okay. And my business specifically focuses on power and water, oil and gas, chem and refining, pharmaceuticals, life sciences, all those sorts of heavy industries in order to automate, electrify, and digitalize.
Ah, wonderful. And sir, give us a sense for the size and scope of ABB in terms of revenues, employees, and locations.
Sure. So our revenues, we're somewhere in the $25 to $30 billion a year range, 100,000+ employees. My business is about 10% of the overall ABB business, and I have 8,000 employees around the world in 45 different countries, serving all those different industries. So gives a little feel for the scope and scale of where we are and how we operate.
Ah, wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. That will give my audience a sense for the next question that I'm about to ask you, right, sir? So in your career, sir, and as you lead a significant portion of ABB's business, you have watched projects, and you have watched a lot of projects, diverse projects and different sizes of projects, sir. What do you think are the main success factors that determine project success on a continuous and repeatable basis, right? How do you create that culture, the mechanism, that project engine where it continuously delivers successful projects?
Yeah, I think the key part of your question there is to continuously deliver successful projects. I think any organization or group can really rally resources and go through huge efforts in order to do it once. But how do you make it repeatable? How do you make it scalable? About 50% of my business comes from projects. The other 50% or so comes from service. And those projects range from small upgrades or a bucket of parts and these sort of things all the way to full greenfield turnkey installations. Yes. And so, if I think about what makes it a success, certainly it starts with people. Making sure that you have the competent organization, the competent people, the right resources to do the right job at the right time. And so I think people is a key aspect of it. Something we're focused on is certainly automating the experience. So what can we automate? What can we take human interaction out of? If you don't have to do a step, you're obviously a lot less likely to make a mistake doing that step. So what can you automate? And then it's about interface management. How do you make sure that the interfaces are being managed properly? If we talk to a lot of our EPC customers or the end users, they all talk about if you can help reduce the interfaces, if you can help streamline the interfaces, automate the interfaces, those sort of things are where the pain points happen on a project. And so kind of combining people, process, infrastructure, and technology, that's where we really come together to try and bring those things into the best project deployment that's repeatable.
Yes. So Brandon, tell me this, and I hear you, sir, the reducing or streamlining the human interface, right? Reducing the touch points and thereby limiting the number of mistakes that get happen or the misunderstanding or misinterpretation. It is best to have clients define what they want, because at the end of the day, then they would own it. There is that whisper game is not being played where the client says something, you hear something gets executed and you go, well, this has no relation.
Right? The game of telephone the kids play.
Yes. And nobody's at fault, then it just happens. So technology and automating the process, it helps. I suspect the question then is, can you take out variability in your projects? Are you able to define the projects and define which are the parameters to be defined? What happens in those cases? Do you encounter projects where there really is not a precedence, where there really is not, this is a completely, like you use the word greenfield project, right? So is there a project, especially as we go through this energy transition, right? The world is changing, our expectations are changing, how energy plays a part is changing. So the rules are, if you will, being rewritten. In that backdrop and those projects that come up, how would you then ensure that projects with high degree of variability, how would you ensure success in those projects?
Yeah, so some things that we're talking about with customers now, which I think is a little bit of a change, is focusing on the outcome. So what do you expect? What do you need from either this piece of equipment or these systems, whatever it is? What's the output that you need? And so it's a little bit of almost like infrastructure as a service or these sort of things. So it used to be you get pages and pages or dump trucks full of specifications, all these sort of things, and everything has to comply to this. Well, now we're seeing that with the customer changing and with some of the processes or integration of like renewables and other things into industrial plants, that it's a little bit of what's the output, and then okay, let us design it to meet those requirements. Therefore, we're on the hook for designing it and for making sure that it works and that it delivers something. And it's not interpretation of your spec, our equipment, is this paint thing right, or is this installed right? It's really what's the output. And so I think if we can get more towards some of these output requirements, then we can say, hey, let whoever's best do it. And I'm a big believer that can have a great impact on projects. So I can then go find partners in the ecosystems that we work in to say, hey, you do this on the civil side, you do this on the piping side, we'll take this on the automation, instrumentation, the electrification side, you do this on the process skid. And then as long as we integrate it properly, the things should work. And I think that's a little bit of a trend that we're seeing in some of the industries.
I love that point, and I want to connect it with something that you said earlier about customer interface. So there is no more important interface in the project cycle than the original interface where the output is being defined, right?
That's right.
What is it that, because if that interface has to get absolutely right, and I suspect that also involves a lot of customer education, because customers may not have the experience or the thought process behind to answer the question, what output do we really need, right? How do we define that output? They may have some sense for it. So how are you helping them get to that point so that your company can then help the customer truly understand what they want, make sure that is exactly what they want, and then make the rest of it happen?
Yeah, I would say two comments. I think one, a little bit of it depends on the maturity of the customers. So we have customers, some IOCs or big engineering firms that have been doing it for a long time, high maturity,
Yes.
and they know what they want to do. They know how they want to deliver it.
Yes.
We have new customers coming into the space that are investors. They're
Yes.
looking to monetize a commodity, and they're saying, hey, you tell us how you want to do it, right?
Yes.
Here's how much we want to spend. Here's the economics of the project.
Yes.
You need it to be built for this. Can you do
Yes.
that?
Yes.
And so you have that full scale. So what does that mean? We have to play different roles at different times. For the more mature side, it's a little bit more of a supporting role, and making sure that what they're specifying, that we have that as kind of a standard offering from ourselves. We don't want to customize things. Whenever you get into customizing solutions, it becomes more expensive, harder to maintain, and you introduce that variability that you talked about earlier. We just were awarded a big subsea project, the Jans project off the coast of Australia with Chevron and Aker. And the feed on that project was us together with Aker, together with Chevron, co-located for probably a year and a half before they even issued a purchase order. So we know exactly what they want. We know exactly what they expect. And all of the parties work together from the beginning to design what that solution was going to be. So now there can't be gray about what's expected. And I think that's a real key to success, is really those kind of partnerships at the beginning to really specify, work together, co-locate, and design these projects so that you can execute them.
Well, congratulations on that project, sir. A question that goes through my mind is, how did you make that happen? How did you build that relationship? Did the customer go through a bid process and then bring you in? Had they developed the project, or was this because you had pre-existing relationships on other projects and it was a given that you would be the partner on this project? Or were there special skills and technologies that you brought to the table where the customer from the very, even before front-end engineering knew that ABB was the partner to be involved in this process?
Yeah, a little bit of all of the above, but I think if I pinpointed a couple items, we certainly had existing relationships with Aker and with Chevron. And then the technology piece. We have a strong technology backbone that would allow you to do this subsea offering and bring power from onshore to offshore platforms, and these sort of things. And so the technology played a key role. They did go through an evaluation process to make sure that things were fair, and that we were in the market and these sort of things. But when you have that kind of early relationship and cohabitating together and really designing the project with the outcome in mind, the end in mind, there's a trust, there's a transparency, there's all these sort of things that take place, which I think is really important to get away from something being completely transactional and make something more about a partnership, more of a marriage. And so I think that that's a really important thing that we shouldn't discount.
I love that point. I think that may be the most important point for project success. The Houston Strategy Forum, hosted a massive supply chain symposium, and this word relationship came up many times, because as companies determine how to interact with each other, as we become more efficient, and we're going to talk about this term cohesive strategy. In the past, I used to tell companies that cohesive strategy used to be within the company, but now in today's term, it's cohesive strategy across companies.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
No longer...
If you look at the wide range of offerings, and especially now with digitalization and other things, there's not one company that does it all. So it's about how do you pull these companies together, manage those interfaces, and focus on the outcome in order to get there. And I think that the word relationship or ecosystem or these things, they're probably overused, but they're critically important for the success of a project.
Yes, wonderfully. Well said, sir. Well said. Thank you. Appreciate that. Why should somebody take the time?
Yeah, well, look, I'm taking the time personally to go listen to the other panelists, right? So that I can get the insights from them. I mean, I think if you look at the group of people that are going to be on stage, from end users to developers to engineering companies,
Yes.
Everyone offers a little bit different insight of how they do it. What are their experiences? What are their learnings? And so for me to be able to go in there and sit there for an hour and a half and soak up some of that information, I think I walk out of there a better person than when I walked in there.
Ah, wonderful. Sir, we are going to have you as a spokesperson of our events for every event.
Yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully so.
Yes.
No, look, I appreciate the opportunity, Ravi, like I said, to represent ABB. Certainly in the Houston community, we're proud to be a big player here and in this industry, and then to listen to my peers and to learn.
But very good. You heard Mr. Spencer. Please come join us March 1st so you can continue and have this discussion with him in person. Insightful things that he has shared with us on driving project success. So come join us March 1st. Mr. Spencer will be there along with the other co-panelists, and I promise you, we will have a powerful, incredible discussion. Mr. Spencer, thank you, sir. Thank you for taking the time, and looking forward to seeing you next week, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi. Appreciate it.